So for this first evaluation, we're going to do otoscopy, but we're going to do it with the video otoscope. Basically what that does is it lets us see what your ear canal looks like up on the screen, which is pretty cool. If you're a patient, you can see cerumen, also known as wax. You can see the tympanic membrane, if it has any perforations, if you get that cone of light. So take it away.
So my hands are actually warm, I think, but I'm just going to pull back on your ear, and you should see what your ear looks like on the screen.
And so doesn't look like there's any wax.
You can see the cone of light. You can kind of see the umbo if you look very carefully.
We're definitely looking for that tympanic membrane to be a grayish kind of pearly color.
That ear looks good. It's moving. Oh, you're going to turn for me. That helps.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nope, I'm on the camera. Hello.
Oh. Alright, we're going to look at this ear now. How's this one angle?
So ears obviously have bends to them, so sometimes it's
Can I see it?
a little hard to see. A dog hair.
I know.
And
I
do
think
have a dog
there's
hair in there again?
there's a dog hair on
Yes.
your eardrum, I think.
Can you take a picture?
Let's see.
So
There
if
we
you
go.
see that black line that's right there, that is not human hair. So sometimes our animals, when we snuggle them and love them so hard, they get into our canals. And as long as it's not bothering her, like sometimes you can feel it against your tympanic membrane, but most of the time they'll just work themselves out on their own. But you can see right there, that was a beautiful picture of a TM.
Oh,
Nice
yeah.
and
That-
gray.
Do you want a
my
picture of the other one?
goodness. I don't need it. If there's no dog hair, then there's
I don't
nothing
think
interesting. So,
there's no dog hair in this one, but we can take a picture of it.
yeah, I'm just gonna capture. Oh no!
Oh,
Look at
Oh,
that.
there
Now
you
it
go.
is.
Oh my
There
gosh.
is a dog hair in that one too.
Matching.
She loves her dog so hard, you guys.
Actually, there's two.
So
Oh my gosh.
There's one up at the top,
Yeah.
too.
How exciting.
Couldn't see it the first time. It was so dark.
all right.
Okay.
Wow.
So after otoscopy, we normally run tympanometry, which checks the compliance of the middle ear, make sure that everything is moving the way that it should be. This will let us know whether or not we have a conductive loss, or if there's fluid in the middle ear, or if there's negative pressure, if you have a clogged eustachian tube. And this machine is super fancy and runs really quick, and
Okay, so we're going to do one more test, and this one your ear will do it all by itself. So you just have to sit there, and your ear will draw a picture for us. Oh, I did get that last frequency.
Hold my breath. But
So the test she just ran are
go with the other
OAEs, which are otoacoustic emissions. Specifically, we did distortion product. So I don't know if you can see on the bottom, there's like a little gray area. That is the noise floor. Basically, the machine is calibrated to make sure we get 6 dB above that noise floor. So it lets us know that her outer hair cells are getting a signal and that it's being reflected back to us.
Okay, we're going to do the other side now. Oh dear. Hook this onto you again. Okay. Right, same thing, you're going to hear those little beeps. And your ear's going to do all the work. Okay, so I just decided to stop it because sometimes those lower pitches, especially 500, noise from the computer makes it very difficult to get a check mark there. And if you also notice there is not a check mark at 8,000 hertz, that doesn't mean that we didn't get a response. It's just that for this equipment, not only does it have to be 6 decibels above the noise floor, which it is, but it also has to be above -10 dB SPL. So that's why I didn't put a check mark at that frequency.
And then can we go back to temps?
Yep, we can go back to our temps.
And then for tympanometry, typically we want to see, and I don't know if you guys want to like zoom in on the screen if you haven't already. Typically we want to get those really nice peaks, so we want them to be in that little rectangular box. So we want pressure to be as close to 0 as possible, or I guess compliance to be as close to 0 as possible. We want to make sure the volume of the ear canal is good. If you have a perforated eardrum, you're going to have really large ear canal volume. So adults is 0.9 to 2.0 is what we're looking for. And then pressure, we want to make sure that we don't have any negative pressure. So looks like the one on the left looks like a temp type A. So for the left ear, and then the right ear, which is red, looks a little bit shallow. That peak doesn't come directly into that box, so that would be temp AS, shallow.
So I am going to put what we call inserts into both of your ears. And so we're just going to finish the rest of the testing with that. So you'll hear that normal, what you think of as a hearing test, those beeps.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a button. So when you hear those beeps, I just want you to press the button.
Okay.
And then we will move on to some words later on in testing.
Okay.
So the reason we're using inserts is because A, she has clear canals, so we know that we don't have any wax buildup. So we can get probably better thresholds than if we were to use supraoral for a transducer. So when we put in inserts, we roll the foam down to make sure that the tip isn't covered, and then we want to make sure that it is inserted past the tragus. And then obviously blue means left, red means right, so it's always good to double check and make sure they're on the right side. On this side. Perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
All right, so we're going to set up the audiometer for testing. So we're going to do pure tones first. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we're on the right stimulus, which is a tone. We want to make sure we pick the right transducer, so inserts, and you'll see that it switches on both sides. And then we want to make sure the ear that we're going to test first is selected. So right now we are on the right ear. So the right ear will be tested first.
Okay, Abby, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. Is this a comfortable level?
Yes, it's fine.
All right, perfect. So we're going to start in your right ear. Okay. So when you hear those beeps, I want you to press the button.
You got it.
All right.
So we start at 1,000 hertz first. We also want to make sure it's on pulse tone.
Oops.
You can see when she responds, that little bar comes across underneath the frequency. Haley right now is using the Houston-Westlake method, which you go down 10 for every correct answer. For every incorrect one, you go up 5 to get threshold.
So she responded twice at 10 decibels at 1,000 hertz in the right ear. Just going to mark that and go on to 2,000.
For normal hearing, or what we suspect for normal hearing patients, we start at 30 decibels. If they didn't respond at 30, we would increase to 50 decibels. Since our patient is an adult, we're testing 3,000 hertz as a frequency. If they were a child, we would jump to 4. You can tell too, Haley is really good about not getting in a rhythm. So we present at different times because we don't want our patient to know when those beeps are going to come. So same thing for 6,000 hertz, because our patient is an adult, we test interactives. Children, typically not the case. Kids, we usually do 500, 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000. And for really little kids, we just try to get 2,000 and 500. Oh, she's getting tricky. So Haley's going to take that response at 5 because she repeated it twice. This one always gets me. It's always too quiet.
Okay, awesome job, Abby. We're gonna move into your left ear now, okay? Just same thing.
So then we want to make sure that same thing, that the audiometer is set up. So we're just going to switch it from right to left. Same thing, you start at 1,000. And we do it all over again. So we mark right side with O's and left side with X's if it is unmasked pure tone thresholds. Nice. You guys probably can't see it on the video, but our patient does report having tinnitus, so she has to concentrate really hard when she gets into those high frequencies. You can tell when she hears it right away because she presses that button really quickly. Last pure tone frequency. Perfect. So let's see the difference between those two ears. If you guys want to look. Pretty similar to one another. Definitely anything that we consider normal hearing sensitivity is from -10 dB to 20 decibels. It's that gray area. And right now her results are definitely in that gray area. And because they are the same, we look for symmetry in our audiograms. So far, so good. Alright, so what Haley's doing right now is getting a pure tone average for our patient, also known as a PTA. So the way you calculate that is if you're using 3 frequencies, you're adding up your 500 hertz, your 1000 hertz, and your 2000 hertz, and you're dividing by 3, and that will give you your average. If you get a number like 1.66, you round up to 2. So for the left ear, we had at 500 hertz, we had 5 dB. For 1000 hertz, we had 5 dB, and then for 2000 hertz, we had 10 dB. So you're going to add 5, 5, and 10 together, which is 20. You're going to divide it by 3, which ends up being like 7 point or 6.6 something, and so you round up to 7 for our pure tone average.
Okay, Abby. So you're going to hear some recorded words now, and I want you to repeat them back to me as best you can, okay? These words are going to get softer. I just want you to do your best to repeat them back.
Okay, can I guess?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Alright, so the next text we're going to do is speech reception threshold or speech recognition threshold, depending on who you ask. It's going to be your SRT. So we need to set up the audiometer for that. So we're going to go under our recorded stuff, which is our internal A, and then we're going to select our word list. So it looks like we have an adult, which is perfect, spondee list A, perfect, and you'll see the bottom part are going to be the words we have to choose from the spondee list.
So I am starting roughly 40 dB above her PTA, and I'm going to begin in the right ear.
Playground.
Playground.
Daybreak.
Daybreak.
Northwest.
Northwest.
Mushroom.
Mushroom.
Doormat.
Doormat.
Eardrum. Iceberg.
So you can tell she doesn't know them because she's not guessing.
Padlock.
Padlock.
Sunset.
Sunset.
Perfect. So she guessed on 2 of them, but she got one of them perfectly, so we know that right ear, she's at 10 decibels.
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
So typically we pick between 6 to 8 words,
Inkwell.
Inkwell.
and we try not to use the same ones between ears, but we also want to make sure that they're familiar with the words on the list.
Oatmeal.
Oatmeal.
Hot dog.
Hot dog.
Stairway. Woodwork. Mousetrap.
Mousetrap.
Airplane.
Airplane.
Okay.
Perfect. So we got 10 dB for that one as well. And so this is a really important test because it basically verifies that our pure tone thresholds that we got match our speech reception thresholds that we got. So we got 10 dB for both, and you can see on the audiogram that she was definitely in that range. So we are bueno.
Okay, so you're going to hear some more recorded words. This time they are not going to get any quieter. They're just going to stay at one level. And I just want you to repeat them back to me again.
Okay.
Alright, perfect.
Alright, so same thing, we're going to make sure we find the right list. So, we're back under adults. We're going to do the NU6 list 2A. This list is comprised of 50 words if you do the full list. 25 words will be a half list.
I will be starting 40 decibels above her SRT score.
So we want to make sure that it's loud enough for the patient to hear. We don't want it to get lower and lower like the other test. We want it to be at a speech level. How well does she do if the words are loud enough?
Say the word pick.
Pick.
Say the word room.
Room.
Say the word nice.
Nice.
Say the word said.
Said.
These
Say the
new
word
audiometers are super
Fair.
awesome because you can mark
Say the
correct
word
versus
soft.
incorrect, and it keeps the score for you up at
Say
that
the
top
word
part,
Quite.
so it takes a lot of the
Say the
math
word
out of it.
keep.
Keep.
Say the word dead.
Dead.
Say the word loaf.
Loaf.
Say the word dab.
Dab.
Say the word numb.
Numb.
Say the word juice.
Juice.
Say the word chief.
Chief.
Say the word merge.
Merge.
Say the word wag.
Wag.
Say the word rain.
Rain.
Say the word witch.
Witch.
Say the word soap.
Soap.
Say the word young.
Young.
Say the word ton.
Ton.
Say the word keg.
Keg.
Say the word calm.
Calm.
Say the word tool.
Tool.
Say the word pipe.
Pike.
Perfect. So she got 25 out of 25. The last one isn't marked because that's the last one we stopped on, but 100%. So she is crushing it.
Say the word mill.
Mill.
Say the word hush.
Hush.
Say the word shack.
Shack.
Say the word read.
Read.
Say the word rot.
Rot.
Say the word hate.
Hate.
Say the word live.
Because she had the same SRT for
Say
both
the word
ears,
book.
we're starting at the same
Say the
presentation
word
level
Voice.
for both ears
Say
as
the
well.
word gaze.
Gaze.
Say the word pad.
Pad.
Say the word thought.
Thought.
Say the word bought.
Bought.
Say the word turn.
Turn.
Say the word chair.
Chair.
Say the word lore.
Lore.
Say the word bite.
Bite.
Say the word haze.
Haze.
Say the word match.
Match.
Say the word learn.
Learn.
Say the word shawl.
Shawl.
Say the word deep.
Deep.
Say the word gin.
Gin.
Say the word gold.
Goal.
Say the word far.
Far.
Perfect. So she got 100% too. And that would be something that we expect because of her thresholds. Right now she's looking pretty good.
Okay, awesome job, Abby. We are almost done. We are going to take these out. And then I'm going to put on a little headband.
Okay.
And so you're going to hear some more beeps through this headband. And I want you to press that button again when you hear the beeps, okay?
So she's positioning the bone oscillator onto her right mastoid. And you can tell that it's kind of awkward, like it doesn't sit like a normal headband, and it applies a lot of pressure, so it's not super comfortable to wear either. Alright, so now since we have the bone oscillator on, we have to switch all of our settings. And what this is going to do is we're going to play tones through the bone oscillator, so even though it's not in her ears, it's going to vibrate her cochlea. So we should be able to get responses.
Okay, so she responded at -10 there, which means I am going to have to mask on both sides, which I will do. I took out both inserts, but I'll go around and do that.
So masking is when you put like a wind noise into the ear that you're not testing, so that way it can't respond to the tone. So we're trying to get the actual results from that specific ear, which you will learn all about if you take advanced audiology.
Okay, so when I tested her at 2000, she came in at -10, which means I have to mask. So I put the insert back into her left ear. So now at 2000, I am going to look at her threshold, which is 10. Because there's no occlusion effect I have to account for, I'm just going to add 10 dB, and I'm going to start my masking at 20 for 2000. The way I will do that is it's left. We have it set for narrow band. I'm just going to turn on the interrupt and turn it up to 20. And then I'm going to see if I can get her to respond.
So what she's doing right now, we're making sure that that -10 was her true response. So we're going to keep turning up that masking noise. That wind noise is going to get louder. And so when we play that -10, if she's still responding to it, after that sound gets loud enough, then we know that that's what her true threshold actually is.
And do the same thing at 4000. So at 4000, her threshold is 5. So I'm going to add 10. So I'm going to start at 15.
And there are a lot of rules and stuff that you guys will learn when you take advanced aud, which we hope you do. Audiology over speech, what? But for real though, it's real fun. Alright.
Okay, I'm going to switch the insert now. Okay, so I went over to the other side and I switched the bone oscillator. So now it's going to be on her left mastoid, and I have an insert in her right ear. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to start at 2000. She came in at -10. I'm going to mask to see what her actual threshold is. So at 2000 in the right ear, her threshold was 10. So I'm going to add 10 dB, and I am going to start at 20.
So when we put that wind noise in, we always start at a lower threshold and then increase up, because we don't want to like surprise our patients, especially when they have a larger hearing loss. It can be very loud. But it looks like she wasn't faking.
Okay, 4000 now. So same thing, 4000, her threshold in the right ear is 5. I'm going to add 10, that's 15. I'm going to start my masker at 15. Okay, we're all done. Okay, so that first test we did, we put a little bit of pressure in your ear, kind of like you're going up into the mountains. And so that just measured how well your eardrum was moving.
Okay.
So as you can see on both your left and right ear, it's more towards the shallow end. We typically like to see it within that box.
Okay.
So your eardrum is still moving, it's just not moving as much as what we consider normal.
Okay.
But that's totally fine. It looks good. So the next test we did, you heard those little sounds and you just had to sit there for that testing. So the check marks just show that when we put a tone in, it was reflected back and it was loud enough above the noise floor, which is in gray, that it was showing that your outer ear, middle ear, all the way to your inner ear, what we call the cochlea, which is your hearing organ, all of that system seems to be working.
Great.
Any questions on that so far?
No.
Okay. So the next test we did, you heard those beeps and pressed the button. So along the y-axis right here is how loud we made it. So the further down you go, the louder it is. And across the top here, those are your different pitches.
Okay.
So it goes from low pitch all the way to high pitch. So what we consider normal hearing is this gray shaded region right here. So the circles are your right ear and the X's are your left ear.
Okay.
So as you can see, both of your ears fell within that gray shaded region.
Great.
So that's what we consider normal hearing. And then those words that got softer, that just checked to make sure that these results were accurate,
Okay.
which they were.
Super.
And then when we made it loud enough at conversational speech level, you were getting 100% word recognition in both of your ears.
All right.
So your hearing is within normal limits, and you're hearing really well when it's quiet and loud enough.
Great.
Any questions on all of this?
Nope.
Okay.